Alright, before we get started here on the charts, nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing I'm about to say is financial advice. You're always going to have to do your own research before investing your money or trading your money, and never risk more than you can afford to lose. Alright, welcome to Charts with Cart, where we look at the charts and we throw our emotions to the side. Now, we're going to start right away with the S&P 500. As you can see, we've been trading in this wedge pattern for a very long time, and as we keep going and going in this pattern here, we're getting closer to an apex. But what happens when we break? Well, if we break up, where's our next target going to be? To figure that out, let's draw a channel here. From here, up here, connect these levels in here, and you can see that if we head up out of that wedge pattern, we can go to 5,350 to 5.4K. It's a possibility. Now, let's say we break south of this pattern and we do something like a little retest. We get short. Where can we expect this thing to dump to? We can expect a preliminary pullback to 4,800 and change. However, as you can see, there's going to be a lot of momentum, a lot of bearish momentum that would come into the market if this were to happen. So most likely, this would just be the start of a more major pullback. As you can see, this has been something that's been due for some time as per the daily RSI. Now, if you're confused here, this is the weekly stochastic RSI on the daily S&P 500. Now, where would this bigger pullback be? Take a fib tool and you can see the golden pocket here corresponds with this pocket here. Let me just go like this, draw it out a little easier, and you can see that 4,500 to 4,550, this is where I'd expect the S&P to ultimately fall to before a resurge up. Now, just to put it in perspective, drops in bull markets like this for the S&P are typically 8 to 10%. This one, from these highs, would be about 12%. So it's not a guarantee that we get all the way down here. So we might come down to these lows. So don't be expecting, in this case, a pullback all the way to 4,550. But if it does happen, also don't be worried because we have a lot of technical support right there. All right, we are firing through these charts here. NVDA, wow, this has been quite the rally we've had. However, once again, we're stuck in a channel, and once again, it's going to have to break at some point. But as you can see here, the top of this range here would be at around $850. So don't get surprised if we spike up to $850. So just so you can see some of the more macro levels on this chart, let's go to the weekly chart. So now let's say we break that daily chart channel we've been running up in. We could head all the way up to about 900 and change. But if we break below and we break below this trend line here, we could head all the way down back to this pocket here between $550 and $500. It's a possibility. All right, Tesla now. As you can see, we're forming a bit of a rising wedge pattern here, but I want you to bring your attention to the stochastic RSI. The weekly stochastic RSI has crossed above the 20 level. This says bullish momentum should be coming into the market. But you can see we're at RSI resistance and this rising wedge. So maybe there's a possibility of a push down back to this trend line, and it would be at around 170, somewhere around there. However, we have the momentum on our side, and I don't like trading against the momentum, so I'm not going to take that short. Another very notable thing on Tesla is that we have come back to the golden pocket. This is where you see bounces and are likely to retest the highs again. So I'm not saying we will. However, given the fact we have bullish momentum and headed back to the golden pocket, despite forming this rising wedge, there's a good chance we head up to this trend line at around 240, and what we do there is anyone's best guess at that point. However, I wouldn't be surprised, since we have the bullish momentum, if we consolidate here and push back up, which your next target would be here at these highs from July, and that would be a price target of $300. Apple now, you can see we had this major trend line here that we bounced off a few times, but if you zoom in, recently we've broken and confirmed below that trend line. So this week you can either see a big pullback or continued consolidation under this line, or I guess you could just go back up, but I think that's the unlikely scenario right now. I would look for a big short opportunity if we continue to consolidate here and show weakness still. We have bearish momentum on the weekly stochastic RSI. It can easily take us all the way down to $158 on this chart, but there is going to be support here again at 165. However, after a technical double top, it's more than likely that we're going to take out these lows, but there's a chance we don't. Here's a really interesting one. Manulife from the Toronto Stock Exchange. You can see that we've been consolidating here or trading within this little wedge pattern. We didn't here, but we reclaimed it, and we're struggling at this resistance level here. Now we're at the bottom of this pattern again. So us being at the bottom of this pattern, there's a possibility that we spike up to the top of it, which would be at around 35 bucks. But keep in mind, we have bearish momentum now starting to form on MFC. So I actually think it's more likely that we get a dump, retrace, and then further downside. And where would a good downside target be? This level here at around 27.50, which would be a golden pocket retrace of this move up that we've had. So if we don't take out these highs, this would be a golden pocket retrace heading back to this support line. Now let's see where these lines came from, because there is significant support at this line now, as you can see from the weekly chart. This is a major level here. So coming back to retest it would be one of the most beautiful things this chart could do. Alright, final chart we're going to look at in this video. And this morning, you can see ApeCoin here. It's a crypto, ApeCoin USDT, that we've been trading in this channel here for a while. And we recently broke out straight to this resistance here. A couple interesting things though here. If we consolidate right here, I would take a long position as long as it doesn't look too strong of a move down. What I mean by that is I want to see a nice consolidation on this channel where we continue to carry bullish momentum. Then I would swing it all the way up here, which would be at around 250. But what's the maximum upside on ApeCoin? Let's go to the weekly chart and find out. You can see that if this resistance line doesn't hold us here at around 250, that there's no major resistance until we get all the way up to 450. And hey, in crypto, and when you have bullish momentum and other coins are surging, this is always a possibility. Alright, that wraps up what we're going through this morning. See you next week. If you liked the content and you want to see the most major trade setups there are, because spoiler alert, I left out the best one for this week, then you're going to want to head to the Patreon, because that you're only going to see there. Alright, see you next week.